What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake and Kyle coming back at you today with wide receivers. Kyle, we're talking about them ball catchers today. We've already done quarterbacks. We've already done running backs. It's time to talk some wide receivers and a lot of depth at wide receiver, right? It was last year. It's going to be once again for 2021. A lot of great options at wide receiver. There's going to be some guys on this list that, can be very interchangeable. You could probably go 50 deep, but here's the deal. We're doing top 30, and we can't fit 50 names into 30 spots. So every time we say, well, where's this person at? I'd love to fit them. I'd love to fit more people in here. But all we got is 30 right now, Kyle, and it's going to be a little bit interesting once we get down towards that 30 range.
I mean, I don't know. I thought we were talking about wide receivers, and you keep talking about trying to fit things in places. So what show is this again?
Exactly. We're going to get right into the content here before this heads off the rails a minute and a half in. So here's the deal. Me and Kyle did not exchange rankings beforehand. He did his own. I did my own. We filled in a sheet, and now we compare them. We just looked at them pretty much for the first time, 10 minutes ago or so. So here's what's awesome about that. We agree on spots number 1 through 4. They're identical. Devontae Adams at number 1, Tyreek Hill number 2, Stephon Diggs number 3, and DeAndre Hopkins at number 4. We're identical. The first 4, and really, how can you have anything negative to say about any of those guys? You have touchdowns, you have targets, you have big plays, you have opportunities. I mean, there's nothing negative to say about any one of those guys right there at the top.
Nothing.
I memean, even with Stephon Diggs, one of the top wide receivers in 2020, he gets maybe even more opportunity here this year. I mean, there's huge opportunities for them in Buffalo once again. But let's start off here with number 5 because that's where we have our first difference. This is where I have actually look at it, old college teammates. Kyle, you have AJ Brown. I have DK Metcalf at number 5. I understand the reason you probably have DK a little bit lower. We've talked about it in the running back video that they want to run the ball a little bit more in Seattle. But DK Metcalf is just one of those guys that I don't feel needs to have 150, plus targets. He's got that big play potential and can put up so many fantasy points and doesn't need the targets. Kind of similar to a Tyreek Hill. That's why I got DK Metcalf still up towards the top with you having AJ Brown here at number 5.
Yeah, DK Metcalf, still like him, still top 10 wide receiver for me. But we're going to need to find a mix of what happened towards the end of the season and what happened at the beginning of the season. We have to find the middle ground of that because towards the end of the season, he was borderline wide receiver 1 most days. So where is that going to land? But not only that, I think I like the Gerald Everett signing in Seattle a lot more than most people. I think that's going to draw Russell Wilson's attention this year. So I am giving a little bit of a hit to DK Metcalf because of that.
Yep, absolutely. And coming up next year, number 6, I have Justin Jefferson. You have Calvin Ridley. I mean, these young wide receivers really starting to dominate the top of these rankings. And Justin Jefferson was a huge surprise to a lot of people last year. Everybody knew the talent was there. He was kind of overshadowed at times at LSU with, I mean, they always have huge names at LSU. But he came in, and it took 2 or 3 weeks, and all of a sudden he took over in that offense. Justin Jefferson, we love. Calvin Ridley was somebody who we had as a must-have in our draft guide. He was a breakout candidate for us last year. We told everybody and their mother to go out and draft him last year, and really no reason to back off of that, even with Julio being healthy there. Calvin Ridley's still a stud. You got him at 6.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley, I mean, it all came together. Targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns. I mean, everything last year really stepped up. And we've seen it with Julio Jones. He doesn't miss a whole lot of games or hasn't recently, but it seems like he's always hurt, always some sort of injury designation. At what point does the body finally break down for him? Calvin Ridley, just an amazing talent there. And then for Justin Jefferson, I mean, we even saw it with Adam Thielen being there. Justin Jefferson towards the end of the season was the big play volume guy. Thielen was really based around those touchdowns by the end of the season. Jefferson was winning all over the place.
Yep, and that's where you have at number 7 is Justin Jefferson. So you got him 1 spot lower than me. I have AJ Brown, which is 2 spots lower than you. The reason I have AJ bumped down, as I'll say now, is I'm just a little bit more worried that opposing defenses can continue to focus on him a little bit more because there's a lack of weapons. No Jonnu Smith, no Corey Davis. That's what worries me a little bit. I don't dislike AJ Brown. Don't worry. Don't get butthurt out there, Titans fans. I worry about that slight upside a little bit because of that. So that's where we have him at number 7. Number 8, I have, what do we call him? Slant boy now? Slant boy Michael Thomas. I have Michael Thomas at number 8. You have Terry McLaurin, who I love Terry McLaurin. I'm trying my hardest to not, but then again, I guess it doesn't matter. You have it at number 8. I would love to put Terry McLaurin higher because I love Terry McLaurin this year. I think he's going to have a great breakout year. As far as Michael Thomas goes, the only thing I can really say for him is he's going to get a lot of volume, right? No Jared Cook, no Emmanuel Sanders. Who's the quarterback going to be? If it's Jameis, I expect a lot of targets to go there. Even if it's Taysom Hill, we'll see almost 10 plus targets a week for Michael Thomas.
Yeah, and I've got him pretty low, probably a lot lower than he should be. I just think there's some guys that have more upside than what he has. Like you said, he's going to have the targets, but what are those targets going to be? I mean,
like quality.
Yeah. Well, not just quality, but if he's catching balls 5, 6, 7 yards off the line, and he's not really going for those deep, teams are going to be able to stack the box a little bit this year if Jameis is not the quarterback. I've got to see consistency from Taysom Hill. I got to see it against teams that aren't bottom tier defenses like last season. So that's why I'm so much lower on him than other people. Back to Terry McLaurin, though. Dear mama. Okay. I just want Terry McLaurin on all my teams this year.
Every one of them. I love me some Terry McLaurin this year. Absolutely. I mean, the target's going to be there. Ryan Fitzmagic back there gunslinging it. They have other options on that offense for people to pay attention to. It's not just Terry McLaurin, so that's a great thing.
I mean, I mentioned on Twitter the other day that I'm old enough to remember when Ryan Fitzpatrick made not only a fading Brandon Marshall a high wide receiver one, but Eric Decker as well in New York. So he gave Devontae Parker his big breakout. You can talk about Fitzmagic all you want to, but that dude will sling it and he'll get wide receiver fantasy points.
Yep, absolutely. That's what it's all about, is the fantasy points. Number 9, I have Allen Robinson, Chicago Bears. You have Keenan Allen. I am convinced at this point it doesn't matter who Allen Robinson's quarterback is. I don't care. I don't care if it's some dude from Section 315 that just scarfed down 2 Budweisers and a foot-long hot dog.
And a pretzel.
And a pretzel with that cheese, though. The nacho cheese. Yeah, it's got
salt, too.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That guy could make Allen Robinson a wide receiver 1 at this point. I mean, look at the names he's put up with over the years. The volume is going to continue to be there. Allen Robinson is just a rare breed at wide receiver, and I would love to see him with some higher tier quarterback talent throwing him the football, but it doesn't. I don't care who his quarterback is. I love Allen Robinson. I got him at number 9.
Well, I will say this. As much grief as people give Andy Dalton, he's still better than Mitchell Trubisky and Blake Bortles. Don't argue with me. I won't listen to it. So
exactly,
he's better than both those guys. Yeah, he's not a top tier 1A type of quarterback, but I mean, he's in the middle there. He's in the middle of the
He's league. One of the best options he's ever had.
Yeah,
put it that way.
he can sling it around a little bit. So Allen Robinson, definitely like him. I've got him at 11. At 9, I've got Keenan Allen. No Hunter Henry this year. They tried to replace him with Jared Cook, but Jared Cook's lost a little bit of a step. So Keenan Allen in year 2 with Justin Herbert. Fantasy points galore. Ladies and gentlemen, do not let Keenan Allen fall into the 6th and 7th round this year like he did last year.
Yeah, it happens. It happens almost every year. He is highly disrespected every year in fantasy football. And really, I don't understand the reason people still want to throw out an injury designation because of like 3 or 4 years ago. Get over it. He's good. What about number 10? I have Calvin Ridley. We've talked about Calvin Ridley where you have him up at 6. So I have him a few spots lower. Don't dislike Calvin Ridley whatsoever. And this is where you have DK Metcalf. So we've already talked about both of these players a little bit earlier. 11, I have Terry McLaurin right there. You have Allen Robinson. So, I mean, the love child of Terry McLaurin. I mean, I don't know if we can continue to talk about it. Kyle's not going to be able to stand up for at least 30 minutes if we do. So we'll move on to number 12 because we got a pair of teammates, but opposite teammates. I have Chris Godwin. You have Mike Evans, a pair of Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And really, I expect a lot of the same this coming up year that we saw from Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin struggled at times with injuries, but Godwin's going to be the guy that hopefully goes out there and gets more yards, but Mike Evans more than likely going to get the guy with more touchdowns. It's going to be pretty close for both these guys again.
Yep, very close. And I've only got Chris Godwin a few notches back anyway. So, one of the big things will be for me by the time the season gets here, these guys will probably end up being close back to back. DJ Moore, I do have in front of Chris Godwin right now. We'll talk about that later, but we'll see what happens with that situation. But yeah, I'm not going to give away too much right now. Again, just a little little sprinkle.
seasoning.
But
sprinkle.
for as much grief as people gave Tom Brady in this offense for not being able to push the ball down the field last year at the start of the season,
just wait.
It clicked at the end of the year, and that's going to carry over. And the main benefactor of that is Mike Evans, and I think that's why I've got him a little higher right now.
Yep, and I don't hate it. Like I said, it can really go either way. They're both going to be solid options. Number 13, we agree on number 13.
I'm sorry, real quick.
Okay.
Should you drop Mike Evans if you own him?
That's the stupidest take I've ever seen on Twitter. Yeah, that was a take on Twitter last year by somebody in the industry. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, after AB was signed.
Yeah, come on. Don't be dumb like that. Number 13, we agree. And it's crazy that we agree because this may be the lowest we've ever ranked Julio Jones preseason, like ever. I mean, ever. And it's not that I dislike Julio. I still think Julio is fringe wide receiver 1. I mean, I don't dislike him whatsoever. If I can draft Julio in the second round this year, more than likely, I'm gonna take a look at that. He's just not going to be one of those top end guys that we've expected him to be over the years. I think he's going to start losing a lot of that to the Calvin Ridley, who we talked about a little bit earlier. And I think he just starts to slowly regress. The touchdowns have always been an issue with Julio Jones, so we both have him right here at 13.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not passing on him by any means. Like you said, if he's there in the second round, I will pull the trigger, especially if I've already got a running back. If I already got a wide receiver, I'm probably not going to take Julio Jones at that point. But if Julio Jones is my wide receiver 1, I'm okay with it because, like you said, this is going to be a deep wide receiver pool this year.
Yep, agreed. All right, so then number 14, Keenan Allen. We just talked about Keenan Allen in our affinity for him and how he is constantly disrespected. I agree he's going to get a lot of targets once again, but this is where you have DJ Moore, who you touched on a little bit earlier. You have DJ Moore only one spot higher than me because I got him one spot lower, but DJ Moore is kind of somebody who I think we should maybe put an asterisk next to, right? Because what's really going to happen in Carolina is the biggest question mark.
Yep. Yeah, the quarterback position. The reason I've got DJ Moore at 14 right now is because Curtis Samuel is gone. Okay, so not really going to have to worry about those targets going to him anymore. Are they going to filter over to Christian McCaffrey a little bit more? I say no. I think they're going to want to keep him more healthy. So maybe we do see some of that workload. Not enough not to consider him. So don't go. I'm not saying that, Headliner Nation. Calm down. Anyway, but I think some of those targets, instead of filtering to Christian McCaffrey, like a lot of people might think, they're going to filter over to DJ Moore instead. But who's going to be throwing it? That's the question. If it's Teddy Bridgewater, I end up dropping DJ Moore. If they make a move in the draft, DJ Moore could stay here or potentially go higher, depending on who it is.
Yep, agreed. Number 16, this is where I have Mike Evans. We already talked about the pairing of him and Chris Godwin. You have Tyler Boyd, though, at number 16, which is pretty high. I don't dislike Tyler Boyd. I just really like T. Higgins this year. Mm-hmm. But Tyler Boyd is another one of those names I guess we could probably throw into one of those guys that's just kind of forgotten about on draft day a lot. I mean, the talent is there, though, and if with a healthy Burrow, he could put up some big numbers with no A.J. Green.
Yeah, I mean, they threw the crap out of the ball last season.
They had to, yeah.
Just over, just complete. I mean, so I wait. Did I say Baltimore? What did I just say?
No, you didn't say Baltimore. You said the ball all over, I think.
All over? Okay.
Ball all over and Baltimore was
I didn't get a whole lot
close.
of sleep last night. Okay, don't
Sleep's
judge
overrated.
me.
It's overrated.
I stayed up all night working on my raps. So.
Wait.
My raps.
Oh, those type of raps. I'm like, what are you talking? What are you talking about?
Rich in the house.
You like making like lettuce wraps or what?
Undo your blouse. Sorry, let's go.
Okay. Do you want to say anything else about Tyler Boyd before I move on?
Tyler Boyd, I think he's the wide receiver at 1 there. T. Higgins, I think, is going to have a lot of touchdown upside. I think Boyd ends up coming out with the volume. So in a half PPR format, I'm going to have Boyd a little bit higher, but I've got T. Higgins just a few spots behind.
17, I have Adam Thielen, Minnesota Vikings. You have Michael Thomas. You already touched on Michael Thomas a little bit earlier. For me, Adam Thielen is, I couldn't put him any lower. That's just like, at this point, I'm like, dude, I can't continue to drop because otherwise Adam Thielen is going to like really drop. And here's the thing with Adam Thielen. And this is where it can be really tricky with fantasy football. And I know you know exactly what I'm going to say here is Adam Thielen can go out there and put up 25 points in a week. And then he'll disappear for 3 or 4 weeks. Then he's going to put up 30. And by the end of the year, Adam Thielen is going to be a high-end wide receiver 2 at worst. And that's where it's kind of hard because The inconsistencies are going to be there with Justin Jefferson, but as far as the rankings go right now, I have him at 17, and I hate to put him any lower.
Not only that, but the inconsistencies in the season when we talk about, last year scoring 14 touchdowns, a career high by 5 touchdowns. That's a lot of touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
With Justin Jefferson there for a full season, they haven't added. They subtracted Kyle Rudolph, but hopefully getting Irv Smith Jr. A little bit more involved in the game plan. Still Dalvin Cook running it all over. 14 touchdowns seems like an awful lot unless that defense is really, really bad again, which it very well could be.
Right.
But the thing with Adam Thielen, too, is not only do you look at it from like a season-long perspective and say, oh, the guy seemed to be a little up and down at times, but even from an in-game perspective, Jake, it was. I mean, how many times did you and I have a conversation in season where we were like, damn, Adam Thielen only has 1 or 2 points headed into the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden the dude's got 30 out of nowhere. I mean, it happened multiple times last year, and it was because they were behind and just having to throw. What if this year they say, man, we got to take a step back from that. We can't throw it that much. We have to try and run the ball a little bit more. Thielen could end up taking a hit at that point because he was kind of an afterthought to Justin Jefferson later in the season.
Yep, agreed. Number 18, Kenny Galladay. We both have him at 18. He's now a New York Giant. He's splitting targets. He's got Darius Slayton to worry about. We know about Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph is there now, a healthy Saquon Barkley in the backfield. I don't think Kenny Galladay has a bad year. I have a feeling come draft time, people will overhype him and his price will become too expensive because he's just going to be a solid wide receiver too, in my opinion, because I don't think the target share is going to be there. I don't know if I believe that much in Daniel Jones to supply that many weapons and make them all relevant consistently. He may be somewhat touchdown dependent.
I think Kenny Galladay is going to be about a 4th-round pick this year. I would not be surprised. I think the only people that are going to overhype Kenny Galladay are going to be Giants fans. And Giants fans, that is not a dig or a shot at you in any way, shape, or form, because I like the signing. I like him coming in there. When I did my Kenny Galladay breaking news video, I even said probably low-end wide receiver 2, going to lose a little bit of upside, might not score as much. 80 to 90 targets probably, hopefully catching about 65, 70 of those balls. And then if some of that big playability comes back where, you're getting 16 yards per reception, which it's likely. It's highly likely in this offense when you've got Saquon Barkley running the ball, when you have these other weapons like a Sterling Shepard who can go over the middle, can run some of those underneath routes. That definitely can leave him in some one-on-one coverage on the field. And we know that Kenny Galladay can win those balls down the field. A little bit maybe upside gone, but I think he's going to end up being a pretty decently safe bet as long as Daniel Jones kind of progresses in his decision-making a little bit. That's the biggest thing. He can go down the field. He's just got to make better decisions all the time.
Exactly. Daniel Jones is going to be the deciding factor right there for Kenny Galladay. Number 19, I have T. Higgins, which I talked about earlier. I love me some T. I love the T. Higgins Joe Burrow connection is what it is. It's not so much that I don't think Tyler Boyd is that good. I just think the connection that we started to see between Higgins and Burrow was just starting to heat up right before Burrow's injury. It's like they had just clicked, and you could just tell like they started to know where each other was going to be on the field at all times. And that's what I'm hoping starts off in 2021, and they really be able to build on that chemistry. So I got T. Higgins at 19. This is where you have our boy, though, Bobby Trees. And I'd love me some Bobby Trees. How safe and consistent is Bobby Trees?
So safe and consistent.
Yeah. And now he gets Matthew Stafford.
And now he's got Matt Stafford. Some of maybe that upside pops back out again. The biggest thing that we said last year that we need from Bobby Trees is for him to find the end zone a little bit more often, and he did that, and he should find it even more often with Matthew Stafford under center now. And they're back to having a really solid run game for the first time since Todd Gurley's big year a few years back. So
exactly.
the run game is really back at this point too, which will also help.
Absolutely. Number 20, I have Deontay Johnson, who is, in my opinion, still the clear-cut number 1 in Pittsburgh. I mean, we know Juju has re-signed. but the target share was going the way of Deontay Johnson every single week the dude was healthy. I mean, that's just, if he's healthy, the guy is getting 10 plus targets. Now, we've heard in the news there's some video coming out with Chase Claypool probably being in a little bit of trouble. To me, it didn't look too bad, but I didn't see all of it. I mean, he's out there fighting in the streets, but whatever it is, Deontay Johnson's still going to be the number one in this offense. They're still going to throw a lot, and as of right now, there's no running game in Pittsburgh. That could change here, pretty soon, but as of the time of this recording, they're going to be throwing a lot, and Deontay Johnson's going to be the main benefactor. Number 20, though, is where you have our boy Amari Cooper, or you'd like to call him Amari Cooper, or always Cooper, or always Amari, or
always
whatever.
Amari.
You got him at 20, dude.
Yes, that's the lowest I think I've ever had him.
I know,
and
I'm
not
proud of you.
I don't like him. And
I'm not that much older than you, but I'm like a proud father right now.
Listen. I can put some of the bias behind me. I can put my love for Amari behind, put it to the side and say, listen, CeeDee Lamb, second year in the league, going to take a step forward. Michael Gallup is still there, obviously. Dak Prescott early on in the season last year made a great connection with his tight ends before he went down. And hopefully Ezekiel Elliott will be a little bit better this year and they try to run the football a little bit more. Amari Cooper still, it's weird to say that he took a step forward this late in his career, but highest percentage of balls caught last year. I mean, he was definitely more reliable last year than he had been in years past. Is that high upside one there every week? Probably not. But it was clear last year that at the beginning of the season, he was Dak Prescott's first target. That's why he'll still be the wide receiver one for me on that team. Just that upside's a little bit lower than what it used to be because they have more weapons around him now.
Yep, I agree. He still is the number one there, and he kind of falls into that category, boom or bust. He's going to score 20. He's going to score 3. It's going to be one of the two. Not really going to average anything in the middle consistently. Let's see here. 21. This is where I have Bobby Trees myself. Love us some Bobby Trees. Already talked about him. You have T. Higgins. Is there anything else you want to add to T. Higgins, ranking here at number 21?
Him and Tyler Boyd could easily flip.
Easily. It'd be one or the other. Absolutely.
Any given week.
Yep. 22. That's where I have Amari Cooper. Talked about that inconsistency, but this is where you have rehabbed now, healthy, possibly, Odell Beckham Jr. of the Cleveland Browns.
I'm not giving up on OBJ.
A lot of people, I'm not naming names, a lot of people all over, everywhere, just hate on Odell Beckham. And I really don't understand the hate because it's not in the talent. The talent is there. It's not in the maturity anymore because you can see the steps forward maturity over the past couple years, especially since going to Cleveland. So that's not the issue. What is the issue? What is the reason for the hate of Odell Beckham anymore? I mean, the guy is off the charts talented, and if he can stay healthy, I mean, the guy, and we have him at 22. I mean, that's an easy wide receiver 2 spot all day long.
Yeah, I mean, and we didn't. And here's the thing: the offense that he was in Cleveland with was a disaster. I'm not going to hold that against OBJ. And last year, when Kevin Stefanski took over, we didn't get to see a whole year of OBJ in that offense. I like Jarvis Landry, have absolutely nothing against Jarvis Landry. But, I mean, OBJ comes back, he's healthy, he's the clear number one target there. I mean, he can be. So I'm not giving up on him. Is some of the upside that we used to see there gone? Yeah, because they run the football a lot. We know that. We know Baker likes to spread it around. Hopefully he learned this year with no OBJ that, hey, for me to be successful, I just got to find the open guy. There's no sense in trying to force it to OBJ every single time. But when that happens, then that will help open up the game a little bit for OBJ. And then when he is getting those targets, maybe they're a little bit more efficient. So am I drafting him as my wide receiver 1? Absolutely not. But if I get him as my wide receiver 2, if I went really running back heavy, or maybe my wide receiver 3, I don't know how he can't return that value.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is the hate and the recency bias against him is going to be so heavy. You're going to get him at a great price this year in almost every draft.
Yep.
The risk will be minimal, and he'll be a lot of people's wide receiver 3. 23, this is where I have DJ Chark. I know you're not a Chark lover. I am not a Chark. I like DJ Chark, but I know that he has his issues.
You're
and
not
I've
a Chark
said,
lover either.
Neither
of us are, but you like him more than I do.
Exactly. But I'm a realist, and I've said it for multiple years where the guy is just big play touchdown dependent. What's good about that is he makes a lot of big plays and he scores touchdowns. So he's relevant more times than he's not. He's just one of those guys that has that potential to really hurt your team on a weekly basis if he doesn't get that touchdown. So I hate to kind of bank on touchdowns, but the ceiling is there. I'm hoping. And the reason I have him at 23 is that Marvin Jones on the opposite side, it doesn't leave, DJ Chark basically out there by himself. There's another legit weapon on the other side. And if Trevor Lawrence can come into this league, the projected number one pick, and make these guys viable, kind of similar to what we saw with Joe Burrow early last year, I think DJ Chark has the potential for some of those big plays. That's why I got him at 23. This is where you have Adam Thielen.
Yeah, so I've got Adam Thielen a little bit lower. And again, it's not that I don't like Adam Thielen. I just like it more if you're drafting him like as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 this year. I'm not expecting all the touchdowns. For DJ Chark, I am expecting maybe, I don't want to say more consistency, but more usable games going forward. But again, it's kind of the same thing with me when it comes to DJ Chark. I think you're going to see maybe some 30s, and I think you're going to see some 3s. So like a lot of people last year were like, oh, DJ Chark, he could be, my number one potentially if I go running back heavy, take a tight end, go quarterback, and then like late round wide receiver at DJ. Don't do that, because then you're just going to have headaches all season long.
Yep, agreed. Number 24, a couple of names we've talked about already. For me, Tyler Boyd, I only have him drop down a few spots because I like T. Higgins a little bit more. This is where you have CeeDee Lamb. We talked about him when we were talking about Amari Cooper. 25, we both agree, though. This is where we have Cooper Kupp of the Rams. Another one of those guys. Wow.
Wait, what?
Totally caught me off guard there. Absolutely. But hey, anyway, Cooper Kupp is kind of interesting, right? And the reason why I have Cooper Kupp drop down, maybe the same reason you do. I don't even know if it's the same reason. He had that connection and that chemistry with Jared Goff. Like, that was Jared Goff's binky for a long time. Like, it was always a way when they got inside the red zone. Cooper Kupp is who Jared Goff was looking for a lot. Does that happen with Matthew Stafford? We really don't know. So I had to take into account some of that risk. I dropped him down to 25, and I can see that's where you have him also.
Yep. Yeah. So basically the same thing for me. Same thing. I just don't know if that connection is going to be there with Matthew Stafford. Stafford, will sling it. He does spread it around a little bit more. He has anyway since Calvin Johnson retired. When it was Calvin Johnson, it was consistently him. But the thing is he going to be the same type of red zone weapon with Matthew Stafford that he was with Jared Goff? That's where my question comes into play.
Right. Absolutely. Number 26 is where I have Odell. We've touched on him. And you have Deontay Johnson, another guy we already talked about. A lot of targets heading his way. 27, I got Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm worried about it, but I figured as a wide receiver 3, there's less risk involved with it. That's why I have him at 27. This is where you have Deontay Johnson's teammate, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah, I got Deontay and Juju back-to-back. I think they're going to be interchangeable most weeks. I do have Deontay Johnson higher just because the big play upside that we saw last year is a little bit higher. I've got some really good Juju stuff, though, because I'm going to be back in on Juju this year.
You got good Juju?
I wasn't. Yeah, it's good. There's going to be some good Juju this year. I'm not necessarily saying like I was ever off of him, but I think the hate is just... It's a little bit odd, but
yeah, I think what it is, Kyle, and real talk here for a second. I think the reason people hate on Juju is because they're not used to seeing people having fun and enjoying their life anymore.
I mean,
kid is well. Do I want to go out there and TikTok dance on the 50-yard line? No, I don't.
Wait,
but
what?
You do. Okay, well maybe we'll figure that out at some point. But I mean, that's not a reason for me to say the guy sucks at football. I mean, is it my style? No, it's not. But that's where I think, oh my, I hope there's not a dance that's like that. I feel like you're having a seizure. Are you okay? Okay, moving on. So 28 is where I have Juju then. So I'm only got him one spot lower than you. You have Brandon Ayuk of the San Francisco 49ers at 28, who I have just a couple spots lower. But I think Ayuk surpasses Deebo Samuel, and he is definitely somebody who isn't as gadgety, that may be safer on a weekly basis.
I think him and Deebo, kind of the same thing as Juju and Juju and Deontay, the same thing as like Higgins and Boyd. Like, there's a few wide receivers this year that it's going to be either one on any given week, but both of them are probably going to be good enough that you can start them every week as well.
Yep, agreed. So 29 is where I have CeeDee Lamb. We've discussed him. This is where you have Marvin Jones Jr. of now the Jacksonville Jaguars. We kind of talked about him quickly when we mentioned DJ Chark. A solid option opposite of Chark, which is still going to help Marvin Jones Jr., kind of like it did with him in Detroit opposite of Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, the reason I've got Jones higher than Chark is just because I think some of that veteran leadership and some of that track record that he has is going to translate to Trevor Lawrence a little bit quickly. I think if Lawrence is going to be picking the ear of somebody and like really trying to get to know somebody the quickest, it's going to be Marvin Jones, who has a longer track record of being very consistent and being a safe option for somebody. So that's why I've got him a little bit higher right now.
Then we rounded out with number 30. I got Brandon Ayuk. We talked about him, absolutely. And this is where you have second-year wide receiver Jerry Judy of Denver, who I do like. I mean, talent-wise, it's there. My biggest concern with Judy is the return to Cortland Sutton and the play of Drew Lock. What do we see?
There's really two teams that we're questioning, quarterbacks and young wide receivers on, and it's the Giants and Jones, and it's the Broncos and Lock. However, I do think the Broncos are going to take a quarterback.
Yeah,
I'm almost positive that's going to happen.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, it wouldn't surprise a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people have already said that they've seen enough from Drew Lock and that he's just not going to be the future. We got to move on. But hey, those were our top 30 ball catchers, top 30 wide receivers. But it's early, and this is post-free agency-ish, right? Because it's not completely over, but it's kind of over. I mean, a name that you won't see on here right now is T.Y. Hilton. He just re-signed with the Colts. This is something where...
Good catch. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I want to make sure I brought up
the video. I'm not like, oh crap, pin a comment.
Pin a comment, right? Well, I mean, that's happened. This is the same day that this was recorded. So, I mean, I want to make sure that people realize that we have a lot of time, right? This is only the end of March. T.Y. Hilton, more than likely, as we progress through the offseason, is going to creep into the top 30. But as of right now, there's a lot of great names on this list. And I don't think after his performance last year, you can say that he deserves a spot over any one of these other guys who've shown high ceiling themselves. So That's just a name that if you don't see it on there, trust us, as rankings update throughout the weeks, throughout the months, you'll start to see little tweaks here or there. If you love the fantasy football content, if you're excited for football, do us a favor, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because we will have you covered all year long. We got some plans coming up later on in the year, Kyle. We're going to be making some road trips. We're doing some fantasy football expos. We want to meet the people, right? We're going to start having some fun. I spent a lot of money on some autographed material stuff to give away. We got all kinds of things coming up, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and stick around. We look forward to hearing with you, hearing from you, and talking to you here later on in the week. Leave us a comment. What do you think of the rankings? What do you see a little bit different? Remember, we're supposed to be a little bit different. It'd be boring if they were all the same, but we look forward to talking to you guys later. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks.